infatuation with the new lasts for a few years, and then the general tendency is that then you go back into the life and learn what you have applied. And Prabhu stayed in the temple and last 19 years. And last year, his authorities, Dravida Prabhu and Bhakti Narayan Maharaj, they called Giriraj Maharaj and they said, you have to give him sannyas. So Giriraj Maharaj, he's not the one usually, he's 35 years old, right? He's like Vamana Dev, so nice and beautiful, So Giriraj Maharaj also, by the way, do not give, he has only given sannyas to a very handful of devotees. And so Maharaj said, okay, we will think about it. So we are in that thinking process now. But anyway, Balaram Prabhu is very, very mellow, very steady, very mode of goodness, very, very humble devotee. He has been part of the ashram there for many, many years. ISKCON has a handful of ashrams, monastic ashrams where monks live. In America, everybody wants to make as much money as everybody can possibly make. That's what America means, So there are no ashrams, nobody wants to live in an ashram. So I was asking Balaram Prabhu, so I said, Balaram Prabhu, you joined at 16, 35, it's all good for you. You don't have any material desires. He said, no. I said, you never felt like you should go and explore the world. He said, no. So thank you, Balaram Prabhu, for being here. Hare Krishna.
Yes, so thank you all for being here. So I'll just chant Jaya Radha Madhava, and then we could read some verses and have a discussion on the 4th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. You ready? Okay.
Hey Google. Hey Google. Stop.
Hey Google.
Stop.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Your parents are here, right? Where are your parents? Okay. You have any brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have an elder brother.
Where's he?
In college.
Oh, college. Here in Columbus?
So it's
Nice. All right. So we'll read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canon, which is titled The Creation of the Fourth Order. Chapter 4, Sati quits her body. And we'll be reading from text 11. And we'll read a few verses. So if everybody could please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Do you think we could turn that the music down? Just because my mind will go to the music, so I'll have a time concentrating speaking. Devya uvacha nayasya lokesti yatishana priyas tata priyo deha britam priyatmanaha tasmin samastatmani mukta vairake irite bhavantam katama pratipaya. Okay, translation. The Blessed Goddess said, Lord Shiva is the most beloved of all living entities, so she's speaking to her father, Daksha. Does anyone remember the context of, because at one point here in this description she starts to criticize her father publicly in front of everybody. Does anyone remember the context?
Maybe you
How-
can just share the
how-
story. A lot of new people are here.
How it came to that point?
He was doing a yajna. He's invited whole world, but he didn't invite his daughter, which is a Sati.
Yeah,
Happened to be her husband is a Lord Shiva
yeah,
because he cannot get along with her husband
yeah.
because he thought he didn't respect him.
Yeah. So at one particular point, Lord Shiva was in the assembly of so many great sages and saintly persons, demigods and so forth. And then Daksha, the great personality Daksha, he came in. And everybody stood up and offered respect to Daksha. Besides Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva was in trance. He was in meditation. So he wasn't doing it purposefully or to be disrespectful, but he was just in trance. He didn't notice. But Daksha became very disturbed by that. And Daksha was the father-in-law of Shiva, Lord Shiva, because he was the father of Sati. Sometimes there's problems, right, between father-in-law or mother-in-law, and it's been an ancient problem. So he became very disturbed. And then later on, at one particular point, Daksha, he was going to perform a big yagya, big sacrifice. This is what they would do in previous times. So he invited everyone, all the great sages, all the great demigods, so many personalities, but he didn't invite his own daughter, Sati, and he also didn't invite his son-in-law, Lord Shiva. So, but Sati, naturally, she wanted to attend this function. And the idea was, it was a bit of of course it was a religious function, but there was also social element there. She wanted to see her mother and her sisters and her friends and so on. So when she went there, first of all, Lord Shiva advised her not to go because of Daksha being in the particular mood he was, her father. But she went against Lord Shiva's advice, and she went to fire sacrifice with some of Lord Shiva's devotees. And when she went there, her mother acknowledged her, her sisters acknowledged her, everyone acknowledged her, besides her father. And she noticed that her father, Daksha, did not create any place for Lord Shiva in the sacrifice or for her. And she knew that her father was very critical of Lord Shiva. And Daksha, in the first instance, he really criticized Lord Shiva, really blasphemed Lord Shiva. So at this particular point, she arrives to the sacrifice, and this is what she tells her father. So this is the verse. She says, Lord Shiva is the most beloved of all living entities. He has no rival. No one is very dear to him, and no one is his enemy. No one but you could be envious of such a universal being who is free from all enmity. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 19:29, the Lord says, Samaham sarvabhuteshu. I am equal to all living entities, Krishna says. Similarly, Lord Shiva is a qualitative incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so he has almost the same qualities as the Supreme Lord. Therefore, he is equal to everyone. No one is his enemy and no one is his friend. But one who is envious by nature can become the enemy of Lord Shiva. Therefore, Sati accused her father, no one but you could be envious of Lord Shiva or be his enemy. Other sages and learned Brahmins were present, but they were not envious of Lord Shiva, although they were all dependent on Daksha. Therefore, no one but Daksha could be envious of Lord Shiva. That was the accusation of Sati. Now, she was saying all of this publicly. I'll just one moment. Om Jnana Tivedandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshulan Militamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him. Ancha Kapadribhishcha Kripa Sindhubheva Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So again, she was saying all of this publicly. She was publicly criticizing her father. Now, generally, if not, most cases, this is absolutely, it's just unacceptable, culturally speaking. You don't criticize your father publicly in front of. It was like if we were all here and then someone started criticizing their father in front of all of us, it'd be not culturally right. But Srila Prabhupada comments on this, and he says that when a devotee is criticized or offended, it is okay and it is proper to defend that devotee. Hare Krishna. So Lord Shiva was criticized when he was offended by Daksha. So Sati was defending her husband, who was a great devotee. So it was considered okay, proper. All right. So the next, we'll read two more to be specific. All right. Twice born Daksha, a man like you, can simply find fault in the qualities of others. Lord Shiva, however, not only finds no faults with others' qualities, but if someone has a little good quality, he magnifies it greatly. Unfortunately, you have found fault with such a great soul. Purport. King Daksha is addressed here by his daughter Sati as Dvija, twice born. Twice born refers to the higher classes of men, namely the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas. In other words, a Dvija is not an ordinary man, but one who has studied the Vedic literature from a spiritual master and can discriminate between good and bad. Therefore, it is supposed that he understands logic and philosophy. Sati, Daksha's daughter, put before him sound arguments. There are some highly qualified persons who accept only the good qualities of others. Just as the bee is always interested in the honey and the flower, and does not consider the thorns and colors. Highly qualified persons who are uncommon accept only the good qualities of others, not considering their bad qualities. Whereas the common man can judge what are good qualities and what are bad qualities. So this is a principle within Krishna consciousness, is that one should train their mind to always see the good in others. And that could be difficult. Does anybody have any ideas why that could be difficult? Why would it be difficult to see the good qualities in others? Yes?
One reason is our conditioning in this world.
Our conditioning. We tend to see the bad. All right. Any other ideas why it'd be difficult to see the good qualities in others? Yes.
One is attachment to their own perceptions.
Attachment to their own
And
perceptions.
then it's very difficult to accept others.
Accept others. Yeah, it's kind of like the tribal, you could say mentality. It's kind of like, hey, well, I'm like I am, and these people are like they are, and let's just see the bad in them. It's called like, anyways. Any other reasons why? Yes.
See what we are actually.
We see we see the faults in others because we have those faults.
Yeah.
Takes one to know one.
Yeah. If I'm a thief, I'll think that other person is also a thief.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's people. That's the experience that if someone's a thief, they're always scared somebody's going to steal from them. It's yeah.
False ego.
Another mindset, like when we are driving, we are having training defensive driving. Like we always believe that other guy don't follow the rules.
That's funny. Defensive driving. Well, you have to do defensive driving in India, right? Or else you're not going to make it. You have to be on guard, defensive driving, right? Or else. I asked somebody how they get their license in India. I mean, of course, some cities are more controlled than others, but some cities are quite wild, a number of them. Of course, from Delhi to Vrindavan, now they have that nice, what they call the Yamuna Express. It's kind of like American Highway, pretty much. But anyway, someone was telling me that in India, in Calcutta, what they do is they just drive around in a circle, like kind of on a racetrack circle, and that's how they get their driver's license. They don't really go out and practice on the road, which is interesting. Anyways, you were going to say something? Chanaka Pandit?
Yes, I was just saying that, I was thinking that because it's a reality that there is relativity in the material world, so it's difficult to give up that view of relativity. So
Yeah.
I'm always going to see
Yeah.
what goes on.
Yeah. It's a fact that there's duality in the world. There's good, there's bad. So it's hard to, you see it. So, one reason is that you could say, well, how is it difficult? Why is it so difficult to see the good qualities in others? One reason you could say, well, maybe the good qualities don't exist. Right? It's like, hey, well. Now, of course, everybody has good qualities. No one's completely bad or completely good. But you could say one of the reasons why it's difficult to see the good in others or in a particular situation is that this Kali Yuga, age of quarrel, hypocrisy, it is said to be an ocean of what? An ocean of faults. So because it's an ocean of faults, there's no surprise that all we see is faults, because it's an ocean of faults. And one of the characteristics of an ocean is that it cannot be measured. You can't measure the ocean. So similarly, the amount of faults in this age are immeasurable. And people, they carry those. Also, people carry those faults. But still, nonetheless, a bhakti yoga practitioner, and actually to live a happy life, we have to learn how to see the good in others. Like what type of relationship will you have with your husband or your wife if you don't learn to see the good in them? It won't be a very happy relationship if you're just seeing the bad. And again, the bad may exist, but if you're just seeing the bad, that's an unhappy relationship. If you're just seeing the good, you could say maybe that sounds too, I don't know, like it's impossible or something, but this is the nature of love, actually, the nature of love is that you actually look past the person's faults. You understand that they're there. It's not that these great personalities are blind to the faults. Of course, there are certain stages of very high Krishna consciousness where you literally don't see them. But in a lot of cases, it's not that the person doesn't see the faults, but they just look beyond them. Just like a mother, we were hearing about the other day, I think it was a couple days ago, how, in the Bhagavatam, there's one personality by the name of King Vena. I mean, he was a really bad son, like really bad. Like you can't even imagine how bad he was. It says that when he was out on the playground, playing with children, having a good time, what would he do? He'd actually kill them. And eventually this person became installed as the king in the particular time. Of course, he was removed, but interesting enough is that the Bhagavatam explains that when he died, of course it's natural for a mother, but the mother was lamenting, and she was even trying to, there's this whole thing, preserving the body and all this kind of details, but main thing is that she was overlooking the faults of her son. She was just seeing him as her son, even though he was so bad. So that's the nature of love, is that one does overlook these faults. So if one has love for Krishna, and if one has love for all living entities, then instead of focusing on their faults, they'll see the good. So this is being brought up. And this is the difference between a bee, right? The example is given of a bee. Bee goes to sweet things. And a fly goes to like garbage. This is the difference. So the idea is to train our minds to be like bees, always going to sweet qualities of others. All right, so we'll continue with the purport. Among the uncommon good souls, there are still gradations, and the best good soul is one who accepts an insignificant asset of a person and magnifies that good quality. Lord Shiva is also called Ashutosh. Remember what that means? Easily satisfied. Which refers to one who is satisfied very easily and who offers to any person the highest level of benediction. For example, once a devotee of Lord Shiva wanted the benediction that whenever he touched someone on the head, the person's head would at once be separated from his trunk. This personality was, we mentioned yesterday, Vrikasura, that he was worshiping Lord Shiva in a very unusual way, wanting to get benedictions from Lord Shiva. He was actually cutting parts of his arm and body and offering it into the fire. And Lord Shiva wasn't reciprocating with him. And then at one particular point, he actually started to, try to cut off his own head. And then Lord Shiva, he said, okay, and he came and he said, what do you want? And then he asked for this benediction, that whoever's head he touched, it would be separated from his trunk. And I guess since we're already so after he got that benediction, what did this Vrikasura try to do? He tried to use that benediction on Lord Shiva, and he was chasing Shiva and trying to touch his head, trying to kill him. eventually Krishna came and convinced this demon that, oh, Lord Shiva, he's just, the benediction's actually not true. You should just touch your own head. So the demon touched his own head and then, exploded. But interesting point here, Prabhupada makes. Lord Shiva agreed. Although the benediction asked was not very commendable because the devotee wanted to kill his enemy, Lord Shiva considered the devotee's good quality in worshipping and satisfying him and granted the benediction. So although this person was very ignorant or tamasic, he didn't really have much good qualities. But still, Lord Shiva saw that. It's very amazing. I mean, it's very difficult to see a good quality in someone like Brikasura, but it says Lord Shiva saw that. But Sati accused her father, you are just the opposite. Although Lord Shiva has so many good qualities and no bad qualities at all, you have accepted him as bad and found fault with him. Because of your accepting his good qualities to be bad, instead of your becoming the most exalted soul, you have become the most fallen. A man becomes the greatest soul by accepting the goodness of others' qualities. But by unnecessarily considering others' good qualities to be bad, you have become the lowest of the fallen souls. Okay, so we'll just read one more. She's continuing. It is not wonderful for persons who have accepted the transient material body as the self to engage always in deriding great souls. Such envy on the part of materialistic persons is very good, because that is the way they fall down. They are diminished by the dust of the feet of great personalities. So she's saying that for persons who accepted the material body as their self. So we learn from the Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 that we are not our body, we're the soul within. But there's some people who accept that they're their body. Now, to accept that their body means what? It means they accept that they're a particular age. What else? Ethnicity, age, gender, even. Now, anyways, it's a bit of. I think now is anybody keeping count? I think there's something like 72. Not. Huh?
Until 2 years back.
About 2 years back, there was 72. Maybe now there's 92. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but anyways. So, but male, female, or anything in between, they don't accept that they're the body, ethnicity, age, and so on. But they're the soul. And more than that, the nature of the soul is Satchidananda. And more than that, the nature of the soul is Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Saddhikabanoy Shravanada Shuddha Chitta Koridoy. The nature of the soul is that the eternal servants of Krishna. But there's some people who don't accept that. And the envy of such materialistic persons, Sati is saying, is good because they fall down and the dust of the saintly person's feet, they diminish. The dust, they're diminished by the dust of the feet of great personalities. And then Prabhupada explains that more in the purport. Everything depends on the strength of the recipient. For example, due to the scorching sunshine, many vegetables and flowers dry up, and many grow luxuriantly. Thus, it is the recipient that causes growth and dwindling. Similarly, the dust of the lotus feet of great personalities offers all good to the recipient. But the same dust can also do harm. Those who are offenders at the lotus feet of a great personality dry up. Their godly qualities diminish. A great soul may forgive offenses, but Krishna does not excuse offenses to the dust of that great soul's feet. Just as one can tolerate the scorching sunshine on one's head, but cannot tolerate the scorching sunshine on one's feet. An offender glides down more and more, therefore he naturally continues to commit offenses at the feet of the great soul. Offenses are generally committed by persons who falsely identify with the impermanent body. King Daksha was deeply engrossed in a misconception because he identified the body with the soul. He offended the lotus feet of Lord Shiva because he thought that his body, being the father of the body of Sati, was superior to Lord Shiva's. Generally, less intelligent men misidentify in that way, and they act in the bodily concept of life. Thus, they are subject to commit more and more offenses at the lotus feet of great souls. One who has such a concept of life is considered to be in the class of animals, like cows and donkeys. Yeah. So the success of our spiritual lives, it revolves on our proper attitude or reception, and specifically of other spiritual practitioners, gurus, saintly persons, devotees. How we deal with them will make all the difference in our spiritual lives. Just like while shaving your head or face, you use a razor. Like in India, you go to a barber, right? Men go to barber, and the person will cut your hair, shave your head. Now you could have a nice clean haircut, or if there's some accidents, it could be very dangerous. And one should never try to unnecessarily give a barber a hard time or bargain unnecessarily with a barber. I remember one brahmachari friend of mine from America. He's quite an intense personality. And he went to a barber in Vrindavan, and he was really trying to cut the price down, like really low. And then at one particular point, the barber said, "Okay, fine, we'll cut the price low." So then he sat him down, and this brahmachari, he came back and he said, "That was the most painful haircut I ever got in my life." I'm not sure what the barber did, but I mean, he looked okay, but so never unnecessarily bargain with the barber. So it could cut very nicely, or it could cause harm. So that's like spiritual life. It's like a razor's edge. So dealing with other devotees or saintly persons, devotees, it could be like that. And this is what Sati's saying, that we have to be careful that instead of offending, seeing the bad qualities, magnifying the bad qualities in others, finding faults unnecessarily, like a fly, one should see the good qualities, and one should try to serve them humbly and encourage each other. And in this way, one is successful. So does anybody have any questions or comments about any of this? Don't feel shy. Yes, Prem Sindhu. There's so many Premas. Prem Sindhu, Prem Vilas, Premananda.
So sometimes, you look at good qualities, like, let's say a mother, right? If she's looking at only good qualities in her child, he's doing his homework, but he's also smoking after hours in the school. So it depends on your relationship, because sometimes you have to look at the bad qualities, because if you just look at the good qualities, or a guru only looks at the good qualities in the disciple,
Yes,
and doesn't chastise him for the bad qualities,
Yes.
then he cannot improve.
he's not a good guru.
Yes.
Yeah.
So same is with relationship with other devotees also. If you have a relationship, and you can, if there is no relationship, then it may a little bit be, not appropriate to point out the fault. But if you have a relationship with somebody, and then you tell them, and they are consider you as your well-wisher.
Yeah.
They may take your
Yeah,
advice.
if one's in a position of a guru or a teacher or a leader, which includes parents, fathers, mothers, husbands, teachers, so on, then one has to point out the faults in the disciple or the dependent, the person they're in a relationship with, or else they're not really performing the function of that leader properly. Like Srila Prabhupada, he would say that the only real problem or the only thing that he didn't like about being a guru is he had to point out the faults in his disciples. But yeah, that is part of the duty of a teacher or parent or guru to point out the faults of the disciples so that the people could make progress. Just like Chanakya Pandit, the original, he says, not this Chanakya Pandit, but the other Chanakya Pandit, he says that one should spoil, means not correct, spoil their child from up until the age of 5. And then from 5 to 15, I believe it is, one should be very disciplined with the child, or else it might spoil the child. Very disciplined. And then after 15, I think it's 16, after 16, then they should act like a friend. It's interesting. Yes, you had a... Okay. Any other questions or yes?
So you said that one should say only good qualities, right? So how one can develop such consciousness where they can see only good qualities in others?
Okay. Thank you. This is a difficult one to drink out of. It has a just like if you try to drink out of a glass, like a mug, it's difficult. So this is also difficult. I thought it wasn't a difficult one. Well, one is that we have to purify our consciousness, become Krishna conscious, and that will allow us to see the good qualities in others, to become purified in consciousness or Krishna conscious. Because part of material consciousness is envy. And envy just doesn't mean that you want something that somebody else has, but envy could also mean like there's a certain dislike towards people. So to become Krishna conscious means that we become free from all of that envy and all the other stuff. And they're considered to be like enemies actually within the heart. Practically, that's what blocks our vision. All of these enemies within the heart, they block our vision. We can't see properly. So like kama, krodha, lobha, right? Lust, anger, greed. Says that one great teacher says, Raghunath Das Goswami, he says that when one is traversing the path of bhakti, thugs might come out, like gangsters, thugs, they come out. And he compares them to lust, anger, greed, illusion, the different thugs, they come out. And they actually wrap a rope around the person and drag them off the path of bhakti. But Raghunath Das Goswami says, when this happens, when one is tempted in this way, or when these thugs come to attack, one shouldn't answer the call. Just press the cancel button. One shouldn't answer the call. But one should call out. You should call out, and it says you should call out to. You should call out to the devotees of Krishna. Please help me. So we need to have the shelter of the devotees of Krishna, or in some translations says you should call out to Krishna and he'll help. Because wherever there is light, there cannot be any darkness. Wherever there is sunshine, there cannot be any darkness. And what is darkness? Does darkness exist? Say darkness is just the absence of light, right? So yeah, we have to call out. I remember one time I was at the Las Vegas temple and I was telling this little story about at one point the Pope, Catholic Pope, and a devotee in Vrindavan, they met. Specifically, this devotee, he went to meet the Pope in the Vatican, and this devotee, he saw Vaishnava. He saw that the Pope had a very fancy phone, a gold phone. So the Vaishnava said to the Pope, he said, "What is that phone for?" He says, "Oh well, I make calls to God, but they're very expensive calls, so I have to be pretty short on the call." So then the devotee said, "Okay, well, can I make a call?" And the Pope said, yeah, sure, make a call. So then he picked up the phone, and the devotee started offering prayers, Brahma Samhita prayers, and so many prayers to Krishna. And then the Pope said, "Oh yeah, please don't be too long because it's a long distance call, so it means it's very expensive." And then the devotee said, "Okay, fine." Then he put the phone down. So later on, this Pope, he went to Vrindavan and he met his Vaishnava friend. And then the Vaishnava friend, he also had a phone. And then the Pope said, "What is that phone for?" And then the Vaishnava said, "Oh, it's for calling God." And then so the Pope said, "Can I use it?" And then the Vaishnava said, yeah, sure, go, you could use it. So then the Pope, he was talking on the phone, and he was kind of talking a long time, quite a long time. And he was telling God about all of the problems and issues and, how he needs help and this and that. And then he put down the phone, and then the Pope told his Vaishnava friend, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I spoke a long time. And that must be very, very expensive for you. So I'm very sorry." And then this Vaishnava said, "Oh, no, don't worry." He said, it's a local call. Because in Vrindavan, Krishna's there in Vrindavan, so it's a local call. Anyways, I was telling this at the Las Vegas temple, and while I was telling this, somebody's phone rang. So it was interesting timing. But yeah, if we're able to purify our consciousness more and more and more, then we're able to see like that. And of course, the main way of purifying our consciousness in this age, this age is actually, although it's considered the worst out of the four ages, Kali Yuga, quarrel and hypocrisy. In the Bhagavatam, in the 11th canto, it says that this age is actually worshipped by learned persons, great saintly persons. And why is that? The value of this age is that simply by chanting Hare Krishna, one could attain all success. So it's a special age, actually. So that's the main process, by chanting Hare Krishna, japa, and kirtan. All right, is there any last? Yes.
If nobody else has.
Oh, please.
Okay. So, anything extreme can lead to fanatism. So the devotee is supposed to practice the balancing approach. When they cannot control, either they leave the place or walk out, something to.
Yeah.
connecting to the Sati's example, where she saw her father was not behaving properly to her husband. He's a Vaishnava. She went an extreme where my body come from my father, so I want to burn myself
Yeah, that's true.
to ashes. She went to the extreme.
Yeah.
What is the tattva behind it? What we learn from that?
Well, yeah, in this particular pastime, she went to an extreme degree of rejection of her father, and that she actually self-incinerated her through yogic, right, her own body, right, therefore sati. That's what it comes. So what do we learn from this? Now, of course, within the Bhagavatam, there's many extreme examples of devotees doing, you could say, extreme things like this. And as you'd say, lesser devotees than Sati, and all of the devotees in the Bhagavatam, we follow the principle, not exactly the detail, not exactly the example in which they exactly set. Just like Lord Shiva, he also did extreme things. Like one of the things right, Nilakanta, the whole poison in the ocean, right? So we shouldn't imitate these great personalities, but in principle, it means, in general, just like Bilva Mangala Thakur, he also did a very intense thing. Those of you who know the story, he removed his own eyes. Very intense thing. And of course, he became a great devotee. But the principle is there that we need to do something radical. And radical doesn't mean you have to walk out of your house and take sannyas immediately, leave your family. But radical means to go against the current of material consciousness or the general bodily concept of life, material civilization. And just because most people are doing something doesn't at all make it right. Of course, that sounds kind of cliche, but like you have historical Germany. I mean, there was a whole civilization practically convinced that a particular part of the civilization, humans, should just be removed. They were convinced. And just because a whole bunch of people were convinced doesn't mean it was correct. It wasn't correct at all, obviously. It was evil. So the principle is to stand for Dharma. That's what Sati was doing. Now, we may not do it in extreme ways like this, but the principle is to stand for Dharma. And that is everybody's responsibility. Just like people who are coming from India, I think some were born here in America. Who was born in America? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I was also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. All right, so. Yeah. And everybody else was born in India. Anyways, there's maybe a few not born in India, but most were born in India, I suspect. And now if you look at our parents, means parents, your parents. You look at your parents, and then you look at their parents, and going back. If you go back, you can see they're very, and in a lot of cases, if not most cases, very dharmic people. They're getting up every morning, doing their pujas, worshipping, chanting so many mantras, going to all the holy places. And over time, the tendency is it's like our great-grandparents were like super dharmic people, religious people. And then like next generation, maybe a little less, next generation, maybe a little. That's the general tendency. It tends to kind of reduce. But even just from a family perspective. You could say that we have a responsibility to follow Dharma. There was one shirt I remember I saw, somebody was wearing a shirt in San Diego, and the shirt said that I am my grandparents' worst nightmare. Or they have a saying, sometimes people they don't want to do, like in America, when people they pass away, they generally bury. It's not burning, but they bury. So there's a saying that, if my grandmother knew what I was doing, she would be rolling in her grave. It means like very disturbed. So, of course, to say anybody's their grandparents' worst nightmare, I don't think that's the case here. It's not the case. But as a principle, we want to try to make people proud, just like in the Bhagavad Gita, it's there. Krishna says, you're coming from a pious, religious family, right? Descendant of Bharat, stand and fight. So just from that perspective. And those who protect Dharma, or you could say follow Dharma, they are protected by Dharma. They are protected. So if we follow, we're protected. So in principle, we could try to follow. I'm sure there's a lot more to learn from that, but that's something. All right, so any other, I'm not sure what the time, they said 11:30 to 12:30, it's about that time, unless there's any other question or comment.
So I want to share one comment. We are attending Bhagavad Gita classes with HG Prabhu. So
Very good.
Yeah, that's good. So what is happening, and that's helping us with our teenage son when we are discussing. We know now we are learning that we can choose our fight.
Is your teenage son here?
No, he
Okay.
is in some class.
Okay.
So what we are doing, sometimes we are criticizing him. We are telling him not do this, do it in this way. But sometimes, because HG Prabhu is saying everybody is having different kind of karmas in last birth.
Yeah.
So he may have to do his own mistakes. We can't correct all the mistakes.
Yeah.
So that's our learning from Bhagavad Gita.
Nice. So it's helping you to
Choose
better
our
process things, like dealing with your son.
Yes.
Nice. I mean, generally, sometimes teenagers are said to be the toughest age, actually, for the individual and also for others. For the parents and for the individual. It's a very tough time, actually. And a lot of teenagers, they get into a lot of trouble. Sometimes I look at teenagers and I think, wow, relatively speaking, they're very good in comparison to some teenagers, yeah. But it's a challenging time, and really, I mean, the parents should just be a good example. That's the best. Actually, the best teaching is by example. There was one Christian preacher, he said he was going to go on some mission or something, and he said, someone was telling him that, you should preach, that you should dedicate your life to preaching. And then the person told him, and if necessary, you could use words. Means that by example, so much is learned. So the best thing for parents to do for their child actually is to be good examples. But anyways, I'm glad you're studying Bhagavad Gita. It's a very important study. Bhagavad Gita shouldn't be seen as like one of those classic books. Classic book means it's there on the shelf, but it's so classic that it's not read, Shouldn't be that classic book. And there's a devotee here in the community. I don't think he's here right now. I don't see him unless he's hiding somewhere. But he said that every day he has a WhatsApp group. So many WhatsApp
Rakesh
groups.
Prabhu.
Yeah,
Rakesh Prabhu.
yeah. So many WhatsApp groups are there, right? So he has a WhatsApp group, and what he does is, I think his son recites the verse, Bhagavad Gita verse, and then they post the verse there in the group. And then when people get that verse, they get the message, and they hear the shloka, and then they read the verse. That's very good. And then gradually go through the whole Bhagavad Gita like that. And people are doing that. I was telling him I very much appreciated this program he was doing, and I go on a walk in San Diego regularly, and on this walk, there's a house, and this woman every day she posts. She has a whiteboard there, dry erase or whiteboard. She puts it on a chair outside her house, and she just, it's not like offensive or vulgar or offensive or anything like that, but she puts some joke on the board every day, and then people walk by and they read that joke. I'm not going to tell you any of the jokes because I didn't remember any of them because they're not that good, but anyways, but I was thinking about that and how we could apply this principle in relation to meditating on scripture. And that's like nourishing. We can't just have nourishment of the body in terms of food and water and sleep, but it's nourishing for the soul. It's nourishing for us. So anyways, it's a good program. Yeah. All right.
Well, I had a question.
Okay.
Okay, so you said you have to follow. So I was actually talking to my mom about this, but you said you have to follow dharma. But dharma also says you're supposed to be honest, but it also says you're supposed to be nice to everyone. And if someone asks you their honest opinion and it's mean, so which one comes first, honesty or kindness?
All right. Thank you. Well, children, especially young children, they could kind of say anything or do anything more or less, and people think, okay, it's cute, or it's okay, or it's fine. But there's also social dynamics. When one grows up, one's communicating with others, one's participating in society. One may withhold, you could say, certain thoughts, or if you want to say truths, for the purpose of not hurting somebody's feelings. For example, Srila Prabhupada, he was in London, and his personal cook didn't cook for him that day because one young boy wanted to cook for Prabhupada. And this boy didn't know how to cook. And that was Prabhupada's lunch. So then he had to have that. It was, the rice was uncooked, not fully cooked or overcooked. The dal was burnt. The potatoes weren't fully cooked. That's a bad meal. The dal's not burned, the rice, that's a bad meal. The chapatis aren't fully cooked. So then the boy asked Srila Prabhupada, oh, how was the meal? And you know what he said? He said, oh, terrible. No, he didn't say that. But he said, the meal was very good. Thank you. I appreciate it. But what did he tell his cook? He said, you shouldn't do that anymore. You have to make sure the person knows what they're doing. And he gave him a hard time about it, his personal cook. But for the boy, he said, very good. So you could say he didn't want to hurt his feelings. Or I remember also Srila Prabhupada, he sat down on a seat, and the seat went really far down. And Prabhupada didn't like it. And then he asked one of the devotees, he said, who made this seat? He was a bit angry. Who made this seat? And then the person who made the seat was right there. And then the devotee said, oh, Prabhupada, she did. And then Prabhupada looked at her and he just smiled. He said, oh, thank you very much. For whatever reason, he didn't want to, correct her. But if by not telling the truth we're going to cause harm to somebody, then we should tell the truth, even though it's not pleasant for them. Like, anyways, there's one devotee in San Diego, brahmachari, and I felt that he's been around for many years, and I felt that he wasn't reading enough. And as a brahmachari, that's one of the businesses of a brahmachari, svadhyaya, to study. So then I brought him into a room with another, and I talked to him about it. And he was very disturbed, because he was saying, I don't have any time, I'm busy, and you're just criticizing me. And he was really offended by it. But I felt that I should say it to try to help him. I could have just said, oh, I don't want to hurt his feelings, right? I'm not gonna tell the truth. But I told the truth, and after that he started studying more, and now he's studying. So each case is different. So it's sometimes hard to say it, but we should think, and sometimes we could even discuss with others. Oh, I'm thinking about saying this to this person. What do you think? It's always good to double check and triple check with people who have a lot of experience, and So it could go either way. Depends.
Should you speak the truth if you're not being asked?
Should you speak the truth if you haven't been asked? Do you want to give some more?
Example.
Yeah.
Just as a layman, like, for example, if
You want to pass the mic to her? I don't know.
So, for example, if my friend and I were going to a party, and she's not dressed well, but I have not been asked, right? Shall I tell the truth or not?
If she hasn't rest well?
If she has not asked me that question, like you said that you should tell the truth if it helps someone, right? But if you're not being asked,
If she hasn't dressed well?
it's just an example, it could be anything else.
Yeah.
But if you're not being asked,
Oh, if you haven't been asked. So it's like you think she's not dressed well, but if she doesn't ask you, should you tell her? I mean, they have a saying, right? I think they say you should dress for others and dress according to the taste of others. Means it should be pleasant for others. And eat according to your own taste. That's yeah. But anyways, that's a detail. I mean, it really depends, like, what the relationship is. If it's your husband, sure. If it's your husband and he doesn't ask, that's okay, you could tell him, right?
Not to wife.
But if it's to the what?
What would be your advice for the husband?
To the husband? To tell to say something or not?
Well, you just gave the wife's perspective.
Yeah.
Can you please give the husband?
Well, maybe you should give.
Zip. Always.
Always zip.
Always good.
I mean, sometimes they have that's a book, right? It's Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. I never read it, but it's meaning there's a completely different way of thinking, of processing, in other words, they're from different planets. So it could be hard, to communicate sometimes, and sometimes just not communicating is the best. Just kind of Or like listening, for example. Someone may say that they think that they always need to maybe say something, but sometimes just listening is good. But anyways, it really depends on the relationship. If you have a close relationship with them, if you're their friend, if you're their well-wisher, if they have appreciation for you, then yeah, you could say something without them asking. But like personally, myself, I don't instruct people unless they want to be instructed, because why? It's like the guru and disciple principle. It's a two-way interaction. There's a disciple who accepts the authority of the guru and what he says, and then there's the guru who accepts the responsibility for the disciple. So that relationship, there's a natural flow of instructions and guidance. But otherwise, in other such relationships, there's other relationships that have similar dynamics. But otherwise, it's like I'm instructing somebody and they really don't want to be instructed. And if they ask me, then that's another story. Anyways, there's a lot to it, but those are some points. What do you think?
Yeah, this advice is good. And definitely good. It would go on husband, but not other way around. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, thank you. All right. All right. Any other?
I was thinking in the Bhagavad Gita there is a verse, right? Anudvedakaram vakyam satyam priyam hitam chaya. That austerity of speech consists of speaking words that are truthful, but at the same time beneficial, pleasing to others, and study of scriptures and like that, so on. So it's sometimes a challenge to say the truthful thing and at the same time be pleasing
Yes.
to others, because
Yes. They say if you tell someone the truth in the Kali Yuga, they'll get sticks and they'll beat you. But if you lie to somebody, then they'll say, okay, very good, and they'll pay you. So it's the nature of the Kali Yuga sometimes that people, because it's easy to hear the truth. It's easy to hear lies. So much lying going on, actually. So much lying. Like the advertising industry, it's a lot of lying. Like, for example, you drive down the street and there's a shop and it says best pizza in town, right? Is it really the best pizza in town? Somebody else is claiming that also. But you could say they're lying about it. Or like, you go down in the grocery store and it says there's some gummy bears there, right? Candy. And it says wholesome, fat-free, or whatever. They're lying. So there's a lot of lying going on. But like Premasinda Prabhu is mentioning, still the Bhagavad Gita says we have to be truthful, but sometimes that truthful is not pleasing. And in the case of guru-disciple or such other kind of close relationships, we may say the truth and it may not be pleasing, but still we should say the truth. But as a general principle, we should try to make it pleasing. But to tell the truth is a very wonderful thing, actually. Yeah. So, all right. Yeah. Any other last?
So I read that you met Srila Prabhupada when you were 16. Could you share any of your memories?
It's interesting because maybe I should alter this, the way it's written. Because I was in Guyana, South America, and devotees, they came to me and they said, oh, we heard you met Srila Prabhupada, like you were mentioning also. And also here in the temple, someone asked me that. But it's a matter of language. How it's written is that I met Srila Prabhupada in the form of one of his books. Because like when I was in Guyana, they were saying, "Oh, you look so young to meet Prabhupada. Like, how is that possible?" But I met him in the form of his books, his teachings. So yeah, he passed away in '77, and I was, in this life, I was 88. But I got one of his books when I was 16 years old, and I was walking out of the grocery store with my mother in San Diego, and there was a devotee there, and this devotee, his name was Radhanath. Not Radhanath Swami, but Radhanath Das. Prabhupada had two Radhanaths, Radhanath Das. So he's a very wonderful devotee. He was a brahmachari in the Radha Damodar party, traveling around America, distributing Prabhupada's books, and then he got a very severe disease in which his whole body became emaciated, and he could only, whenever he ate, he had to blend everything. That's very, like they made a nice lunch for everybody here to Krishna. And if we were to say, okay, we're going to throw the dal and the rice and the sabji and the pork, we're going to throw it all in a blender. And then you could drink, that's very austere. So anyways, that's what he had to do every day. He had to eat like that. And his legs were amputated from the knees down. And he was in a wheelchair. So, but still, despite his condition, he would go out and distribute Prabhupada's books 5-6 days a week. And he would sit in the wheelchair, and he'd have a container of flowers there, so it was Mahaprasadam flowers, and he would sell the flowers and give books away. So he was doing that outside of a grocery store. So my mother, she bought a flower from him, and then she also helped him pour some whatever dal or something from his canteen. And then he gave me a book, Perfection of Yoga, which is based on Bhagavad Gita, a small book. And I read that book, and I was very impressed. And then I came to the temple when I was 17, San Diego Temple. So that was and I've met, Prabhupada disciples, met Prabhupada, but that was my meeting with Srila Prabhupada in the form of one of his books. So, yeah.
Can you share with devotees one or two inspirations you had in your ashram in your life?
Okay. What type of inspiration are you looking for? Spiritual inspiration? But is there any specific thing you had in mind?
How you decided to dedicate your life?
Okay. Well, I mean, in the years I've been in the temple, inspiration. Well, the Hare Krishna movement, or Gaudiya Vaishnavism, is what some devotees term as radical personalism. Means we are into personalism, radical personalism. We're persons. We're individuals. You're an individual. I'm an individual. Krishna, right, the supreme personality of God, an individual. So when we talk about inspiration, ultimately, inspiration comes from other persons, people. Whether it's Krishna, whether it's Srila Prabhupada, whether it's other devotees. So, yeah, I've had a lot of inspiration throughout the years. Radhanath Das was my first inspiration. He gave me a book. And then another devotee who, was very inspiring for me. His name used to be Mahat Tattva. He was a temple president of San Diego. And he was a brahmachari, so he invited me to stay in the ashram for 3 months. But he was a big inspiration because he was very austere, waking up early, chanting, reading, always engaged in outreach, trying to bring people to Krishna consciousness, always studying, very strict. So he was the person who trained me practically in all the different aspects of, And I would always go to him with so many concerns and how to deal with this person, that person, advice. So, and then later on in 2016, he became a sannyasi. He moved on to the renounced road of life. And so, yeah, he's still an inspiration to me. And then there was my spiritual master, His Holiness Giriraj Swami. I think he's been here a couple times. So he's a big inspiration for me in that I always when I was interacting with him at one particular point, I was just really convinced of him as a person, like his humility, his which is not just because there could be a mistake there, because you could say, oh, somebody's very good, somebody's very humble, means it's all stemming from the mode of goodness, which is shaking this world. But his good qualities are actually coming from Krishna consciousness, which is they're spiritually based. So his humility, his patience, his kindness, his ability to communicate Krishna consciousness and really be loyal to Srila Prabhupada. So I was very convinced of him, and I'm still convinced. So he's been a big inspiration for me, and there's a number of devotees. Having fun. There are a number of devotees who have been inspiring to me. So that's a few. Sometimes when I go to communities, I ask devotees, "Who's your favorite devotee?" And then some people, they say, they're kind of, "Oh well, I like all the devotees." But then I say, "Okay, well, like who has inspired you a lot?" And then, of course, everybody has a specific name because, again, we're personalists. Persons have inspired us. And sometimes I go to communities and I talk to a number of people and they all say the same person. It's quite interesting. Like in LA, for example, those of you who know Brigupati, Prabhupada disciple, he's been distributing books for well over 50 years now. But many devotees who I ask in LA, I say, "Who's your inspiration?" And they go, "Brigupati." So it's a nice question to ask somebody. Who is your inspiration? Or who is your favorite devotee? So anyways, that's some inspiring people. Of course, Srila Prabhupada. Inspiring. Yeah. Yes.
So, like in your journey, you might have had many temptations when you're young. So, how did you get over those? Like, you must be at the brink of breaking away sometime.
Yeah. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted sannyas, he was very young, 24. And he was it was Krishna, right, in the form of a devotee, so he was very attractive, supremely handsome, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when he made his way to Jagannath Puri, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, a great impersonalist, he was in fear. He was saying, "You accepted sannyas and you're so young," and he wanted to train him in Vedanta. Of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu converted him and made him a Vaishnava. But generally this perception's there that if somebody's young, that means there's a lot of passion and there's a lot of temptation or a lot of fear that the person may not make the course. I always got up in the morning. Every morning I would get up, no matter what time I went to sleep, even if it was very late. I would always get up in the morning. and attend the morning program and chant. And that was my training from Mahatattva, became Tirtha Maharaj, because he was always getting up. And even if I thought about not getting up, that wouldn't be acceptable in his eyes. So he was teaching by example. So that getting up in the morning and chanting and associating with him and my spiritual master and other such devotees, that's always been a great strength for me. And over time, Krishna gives us mercy for us to be successful. He'll give us that mercy if we're asking for it, we're praying, we're really endeavoring. He'll help us. Krishna helps us. I felt that the devotees and Krishna have helped me over the years. And as Prabhupada said one time, good judgment comes from experience, and experience comes from bad judgment. So in other words, over time, one knows exactly what doesn't work. Like I know exactly what doesn't work in Krishna consciousness. Like I know the formula that doesn't work, or the formulas. There's many varieties of formulas that don't work based on my experience and seeing others. And I know what works. But over time, Krishna helps us more and more and more, and to break away from the unnecessary attachments of the world. My friend, anyways, he's a devotee, but in his early years, he actually was addicted to drugs. And he was addicted to heroin, actually, and that you have to inject usually. So, but for years he said he was praying. For years, and still he was struggling with his addiction for many, many years. And then I asked him about that. I said, "Weren't you getting discouraged? Like, because if you're there struggling with something, you're attached to something, and then you're praying for years, and then it's not seeming to go away. That could be discouraging." Now, of course, this praying, there's always progress being made. Every prayer is a progress. You're making progress. But still, largely, you could say that it doesn't seem that it's going away. So then he made a comment. He said, it's just like that story of the man. There was a flood in the town, right? There's a flood in Ohio, Columbus, right? Everything's flooding. It happens sometimes. And there was a man, and there's a fear of drowning, so a boat came by and said, "Hey man, jump on the boat." And he said, No. God will save me. Okay? And then he climbs up on the roof, right? Because it's all flooding. And then a guy in a jet ski comes by. "Hey man, jump on the jet ski." No. God will save me. And then the water's getting higher, right? And then he's standing on the top of the roof, very top of the roof, and then a helicopter comes. "Hey, pick up the rope, get the rope." And then the guy says, No, God will save me. And guess what happens? He drowns, right? So then he approaches God in the next life, and then the man says, why didn't you help me? And then God says, "Well, I sent the boat, I sent the jet ski, I sent the helicopter. I mean, that was me helping you." So this devotee was making that point. He was saying Krishna was trying to help him, but he said he was so difficult that he wasn't accepting the help. But then at one point, he went to this clinic. He was gradually getting off of this, and he went to this clinic, and what they do is they give you methadone. I mean, I don't have any experience with this, by the way, but they give you methadone. That's how you kind of make your way off. It's a prescription drug for people who are users. But some people stay like that their whole life. So one social worker, he called him over, my friend, and he chastised him. And he said, Are you gonna do this your whole life? Just coming to the clinic, back and forth, and like wake up. And then at that particular point, he just stopped. He just like renounced it. And then later on, he became a devotee. And so, anyways, it's an example of he was trying, he was praying. Krishna was trying to help him. He wasn't accepting, but at one particular point, the message got through. So, yeah, over time, I felt that Krishna, he's always been trying to help me and give me so many messages. But, yeah, I'm trying to be a good son and accept those messages. So, yeah, I hope that kind of...
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is that God helps because we help ourselves.
Yes, that's true.
So sometimes we are helpless. So how do you know whether you're trying your best or are you? I mean, like you're praying, but you really inside your heart, your intensity of wanting to give up something that is not desired, like the drug or something,
Yeah.
is not very strong. But you're praying.
Yeah.
So is it we have to also increase the intensity of our desire?
Oh yeah, definitely. We have to increase the intensity of our desire. That's the real price, actually. If we want to make spiritual progress, if we want Krishna consciousness, then there's one price, and that is laulyam, or greed. Now, the example is given of a sweet shop, right? Anybody from Bengal here? No? No Bengalis? All right. You're from Bengal? All right, there you go. Okay, another person from Bengal. So in Bengal, the sweets are very popular, right? They're known for their sweets, so they have all these sweet shops. What do they have? Yeah, rasgulla, sandesh, cham cham. There was something kavita. What is it? Huh?
Kavita.
Something. Anyways, I just had it.
There are
Yes.
a lot.
Huh?
A lot of.
Yeah, there's a lot. I just had a sweet yesterday. I never recognized the name, but they said it was a Bengali sweet. It's like fried, and then they put some jaggery in it, like melted jaggery. Anyways, so if you go to a sweet shop, now the example in relation to greed is given in relation to a sweet shop, that when you go there, if you have greed, you're going to get that sweet somehow or other. It's not a question of will I get it or will I not get it. You're going to get the sweet if you have greed. So the example is given, you'll borrow the money to get the sweet. You'll beg the person, give me the sweets, or you'll even steal it. Beg, borrow, or steal. Or just buy with your own money. Beg, borrow, or steal. So you're going to get those sweets because you have a greed for them. So similarly, if one has a greed for Krishna consciousness, it's not they're thinking, okay, well, maybe not. I might get it, I may not get it. But they're thinking that, all right, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get that goal, to become Krishna conscious. So yeah, we have to develop that desire. And how do we develop that desire? How do we develop that greed, spiritual greed? And we develop that by associating with persons who have that greed. And you could say, well, how did they get that greed? From other persons who have that greed. And it goes back all the way to Krishna, actually. Krishna, Narada, and it goes down a whole succession. So bhakti comes from bhakti, or a devotee is one who gives this enthusiasm, ultimately. So yeah. That's an important part. All right. I'm a guest here, so whatever everybody wants to do, I'm fine. If you want to ask more questions or if you want to move on to the next part, whatever you want to do.
No, it's we'll do a stand-up kick.
We'll move on to the next part. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you all very
Everybody
much.
stands up.
Hare Krishna.
Everybody stand up. Balaram Prabhu ki Jai. Jai.
Where do you post those on YouTube?
Yes, Prabhu, I have a channel.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Everybody please sing, please join in Kirtan. Haribo. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hari Bol. Gauranga. Nityananda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bolo.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare
One, two, three. Loudly, please. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Praise Lord. Amen. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Please bow down. Harinam Sankirtan ki, Anant Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki, Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, आज के आनंद की, श्री बलराम प्रभु की विजिट की, रसिक कृष्ण प्रभु and his family की, श्री राधा कृष्ण की, all glories to Assembly, all glories to Assembly, glories to Assembly, glories to Lotus feet of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Devotees, just one announcement we want to make. If I can have your attention for 30 more seconds. Prem Sindhu Prabhu requested, we have a Bhagavad Katha by His Grace Lal Govind Prabhu. And if you want to listen to something very nectarine about Krishna Katha, about Srimad Bhagavatam, about these pastimes, just on YouTube, you can type Lal Govind Das. And he has done 470 kathas in almost every country of the world. More than 100 million people in this world have heard his katha on online and YouTube. He will be in Columbus live, April 26th, 27th, 28th. 3 days in Marriott Hotel, he'll be doing katha in Hindi. So if you speak Hindi, Gujarati, he also kind of, he's from Gujarati background. He does this katha as a service to humanity, does not charge anything. He travels with his wife and just do katha. He will be doing 2 weeks of katha in London and in Wembley, and then 1 day break, and then 3 days of katha in Columbus, back to back. So he will be coming here in live doing katha. It's amazing. His kirtan, his katha, his presentation. It is so deep and profound. He also benedicts devotees with encourage them to chant the holy name, give them japa mala. It is your opportunity to take your mala from him, to listen to him. We would like to welcome everybody, and please spread the word. Prem Sindhu Prabhu can forward you our WhatsApp QR code. You can forward it to everybody. Make a plan if you can attend. Friday evening, Saturday 6 hours and Sunday 6 hours. And there will be Prashadam. Naveen Krishna Prabhu is doing a big marathon to cook for 400 or 500 people every day. So Prashadam, 2 go boxes and Prashadam to be served there as well. So very nice venue. And on behalf of ISKCON Columbus and Srila Prabhupada, we'd like to invite everybody to the Katha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.